Pretty much the only way Europe and the US are ever going to meet their ridiculous EV adoption mandates is by importing hundreds of thousands of cheap Chinese EVs. But this comes at a huge price. Have you ever wondered why the Chinese were never able to make a decent petrol car? It's because they simply ripped off a Japanese or European engine design, but then were unable to get the materials or manufacturing quality anywhere near where they need to be for the thing to work properly. EVs are a very different story superficially, just an electric motor and a battery. But even then, the quality is often so poor that batteries spontaneously catch fire, suspension components break, airbags don't deploy, critical safety issues that put lives at risk. Yet we're seeing more and more Chinese EVs of highly dubious quality on our roads. But it's not just that. The connected nature of these cars and their many cameras, sensors and internet connectivity make them a huge security risk for Western countries. And if that weren't enough, they're also destroying local auto manufacturers and sending the vehicle markets into chaos. If you were cynical, you'd almost think it was all planned. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney-based YouTuber. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to support this channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code right here. We'll take a look at a shocking video from YouTube channel Spencer in a minute, but firstly two contradictory but complementary articles on the chaos Chinese EVs are causing in the West. Firstly, the threat to security from these connected cars, which we've spoken about previously on this channel. US to ban Chinese tech in cars. The US is planning to ban certain hardware and software made in China and Russia from cars, trucks and buses in the US due to security risks. Officials said they were worried that the technology in question, used for autonomous driving and to connect cars to other networks, could allow enemies to remotely manipulate cars on American roads. There is currently minimal use of Chinese or Russian-made software in American cars, but Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said the plans were targeted proactive steps to protect the US. Cars today have cameras, microphones, GPS tracking and other technologies connected to the internet, she said in a statement. It doesn't take much imagination to understand how a foreign adversary with access to this information could pose a serious risk to both our national security and the privacy of US citizens. But at the same time, while imposing tariffs and bans on these vehicles, others in the industry still perceive a serious impact on local manufacturing. Chinese electric cars an existential threat, Ford boss. The CEO of Ford has issued a fresh warning to the US and European industry on the rapid growth of Chinese brands. Ford CEO Jim Farley returned from a visit to China earlier this year, anxious and exasperated about the threat Chinese-made electric vehicles pose to manufacturers in the US and Europe. A revealing report by the Wall Street Journal details a series of trips to China made by Farley over the past 18 months to experience and drive cars made by the country's fastest growing auto brands. "John, this is an existential threat," the Ford CEO reportedly told fellow board member John Thornton after a visit in May, warning Chinese brands are moving much faster and with new technology unlike any US brand. Farley watched engineers pull apart a BYD to reveal elegant, low-cost engineering, according to the Wall Street Journal, and test an electric vehicle from Ford's Chinese joint venture partner Chang'an. The CEO is said to have sat silently with Ford Chief Financial Officer John Lawler after the test drive, who told the top boss, "Jim, this is nothing like before. These guys are ahead of us." I don't know about that. He certainly wouldn't have said it if he'd seen this video from the Spencer YouTube channel, which highlights that it's not just the cheap and nasty Chinese EVs that have major quality control issues. As I said at the start, Chinese manufacturers just couldn't get the materials or quality necessary to produce a reliable petrol engine car, with thousands of parts and extremely high precision required. However,
EVs are far simpler. Just the electric motor, which is some wire and magnets, the speed controller, which is the computer that runs everything, and the battery, which is chemistry. A far simpler thing to put together, especially if you already have Tesla to copy from. The problem is that the shortcuts that caused China's internal combustion cars to fail and fall apart also cause issues with China's EVs. It's the lackluster quality control and shortcuts when it comes to the quality of components. This is something that China simply can't seem to shake, and it affects every single industry. Somewhere down the supply chain, someone substitutes quality for rubbish so that they can profit more.
And it's often not until these cars get to foreign markets, like Australia, that the problems are revealed.
A recall notice for Chinese EVs sold in Australia was issued in December of 2023, less than a year ago. And this was because there was a problem that could kill the owner. Turns out that if you unplug the charging cable without manually first stopping the charging process, you could die. This is a very simple and basic safety feature that all EVs have baked in. Most EVs won't allow you to unplug the charger whilst charging, and those that do will immediately cut off the charge. How could such a simple yet deadly mistake make it all the way to Australian shores? Why was this problem not identified in China? Why was a recall only initiated once it was being sold in a foreign market? Simple. Foreign markets have higher standards, and there are more legal repercussions.
Well, Chinese EVs may be an existential threat for Western car manufacturers, but they're also a security risk and, most importantly, they pose a grave danger to safety. If it weren't for the zealotry of net zero, something uniquely pushed by Western governments, while China itself burns coal like there's no tomorrow, none of this would be necessary. Just think about that for a minute.